À présent, l'Assemblée générale.
The Assembly will hear an address by His Excellency Mr. Macky Sall, President of the Republic of Senegal. I request protocol to escort His Excellency.
Au nom de l'Assemblée générale,
on behalf of the General Assembly, I have the honour to welcome to the United Nations His Excellency Mr. Macky Sall, President of the Republic of Senegal, and to invite him to address the Assembly.
Monsieur le Président de l'Assemblée générale,
Mr. President of the General Assembly, dear colleagues, heads of state, Mr. Secretary General, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. President, I offer you my sincere congratulations on your election, and I wish you every success in the conduct of the work of the 74th session of the General Assembly. I thank your predecessor for her contribution to our shared efforts and reiterate my encouragement to our Secretary General in the fulfillment of his mission in the service of Member States. This session of the General Assembly invites us to galvanize multilateral efforts for poverty eradication, quality education, climate action, and inclusion. These challenges are major and they are timely. But for the millions of victims of war and terrorism, the existential question of living in peace and security looms largest. In the Sahel, terrorist groups continue to bring death on a daily basis, creating refugees and displaced persons in the thousands and destroying basic social services. As a troop-contributing country to MINUSMA, Senegal stands in solidarity with the action of the member countries of the G5 Sahel and the partners of the Alliance for the Sahel. Because these perils know no borders, their solution cannot be fragmented. The peace, security and stability of the Sahel are integral parts of the peace, security and stability of the world. In accordance with the conclusions of the ECOWAS Extraordinary Summit on the 14th of September on the fight against terrorism, Senegal remains committed to respect for sovereignty and the territorial integrity of countries such as Mali in the face of any separatist inclinations. We call upon the Security Council to provide MINUSMA with a robust mandate and appropriate equipment for the fight against terrorism in the Sahel. Terrorism is the absolute negation of humanity, and it must be fought in all its forms and manifestations. That is why our country joined the initiative of France and of New Zealand in May in Paris for the Christchurch call to action to eradicate terrorist and extremist content online, following the 15th of March attacks against the Muslim community in Christchurch. We must firmly reject populist discourse which manipulates minds, feeds hatred, and which ultimately normalizes racism, xenophobia, and violent extremism. Contrary to that, a piece of African wisdom extols peaceful coexistence and respect for diversity through the conciliatory effort that establishes the reign of the city of peace, where each human lives in peace with himself and with his neighbour. Because, as this piece of wisdom tells us, the rainbow owes its beauty to the varied tones of its colours. All this to say that peace is also diversity, that there can be no superior centre of civilization which would dictate to others the way they should be and the way they should act, and that all cultures, all civilizations are of equal dignity. Senegal therefore decided to establish the Gorée Memorial to commemorate the dark period of slavery, and to appeal for the peaceful coexistence of peoples in respect for their diversity. Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen, the state of peace that the ideal of the United Nations inspires is most certainly more compatible with the human condition than the state of war. But peace is not just the absence of war. Peace is also that calming, accommodating state of mind. And in this spirit, Senegal firmly calls for reconciliation between the Palestinian and Israeli peoples, and the realization of the right of the Palestinian people to a viable state with East Jerusalem as its capital, coexisting peacefully with the State of Israel, each one within secure and internationally recognized borders. Dialogue is the essence of the United Nations, our shared home. Upon the ashes of war, this house was built to serve multilateralism so that it may be conducive to cooperation and the peaceful coexistence of peoples. In the face of global challenges and stakes which go beyond the nation-state, it is here that we express our concerns. It is here that our ideas and our proposals to resolve our shared problems meet. It is here that we bring our hopes for compromise to achieve our common goals, as called for in the Charter of the organization. Faith in multilateralism can only prosper with respect for agreed rules and commitments. When these rules and these commitments are thrown into doubt, that faith is shaken, and the ideal of the United Nations is weakened. As a consequence, Senegal reiterates its commitment to multilateralism and to a reformed and inclusive global governance through more equitable representation of Africa on the Security Council. As the acting president of the NEPAD Steering Committee, I commend the momentum of partnerships, both old and new, with Africa. We are in favour of a different vision of the paradigm of relations with the continent, free from prejudices and founded on renewed and mutually beneficial partnerships. Africa does not need tutoring. Africa needs partnership. We want fairer exchanges that do not exaggerate the perceived risk of investing on the continent, which pay a fair price for commodities, which protect the rights of host countries alongside the interests of the investor, and which promote the creation of local value chains. We call for a reform of the international tax system, so that taxes are paid in the place where the activity creates wealth and profit, and that firmer action be taken against tax fraud and tax evasion, and against money laundering and other illicit financial flows, which deprive Africa of more than $100 billion a year. We urge the implementation of the Paris Climate Agreement, including the goal of $100 billion a year to support the energy transition and for adaptation to climate change. We call for respect for the engagements that were agreed during the third replenishment conference of the Fund for the Global Partnership for Education in February 2018 in Dakar to mobilize $3 billion over 3 years for education and training. More inclusive global governance, more balanced trade, a reformed international tax system, and the implementation of agreed commitments. This, for Africa, is what is truly at stake with multilateralism today. And this, for Africa, are the true challenges that we need to overcome together if we want to galvanize multilateral efforts to eradicate poverty, to promote quality education, to take action against climate change, and to promote inclusion. In doing so, it remains the case that the destiny of peoples remains, first and foremost, in their own hands. That is why Senegal is pursuing its path towards becoming an emerging country by 2035 with determination, with the Emerging Senegal Plan. Over the first phase of the plan, covering 2014 to 2018, we have implemented several development infrastructure projects through public investment. In December 2018, we launched Phase 2 of the plan, covering the period 2019 to 2023, with a priority action plan that is better targeted towards private investment in strategic sectors such as agriculture, livestock farming and fisheries, as well as transport infrastructure and services, energy, education, training and the digital economy, healthcare, and hotel and tourist infrastructure, and lastly, the habitat, with a special 5-year program to build 100,000 homes. These efforts are accompanied by a rationalization of the administration and of public spending, and a better mobilization of domestic resources. At the same time, we are implementing the vision of a Senegal for all through public policies targeting social inclusion and territorial equity, which include the Emergency Community Development Programme with components covering water, drinking water, electricity, access roads to isolated areas, and equipment for rural women. Also universal health coverage, the National Programme of Family Security Grants for the most vulnerable groups, and the Office to Boost Entrepreneurship among Women and Young People. Ladies and gentlemen, faced with the ideal of peace and human fraternity that brings us here today, Senegal is delighted to host the 9th World Water Forum in 2021 and the 4th Youth Olympic Games in 2022. This is a first for Africa in the history of the Olympic movement. We hope that these two events will contribute to bolstering peace and fraternity among peoples and to building a better world, a world that is more welcoming for all. We invite the entire United Nations family. I wish every success to the work of this session and thank you for your kind attention.
Au nom de l'Assemblée générale.
On behalf of the General Assembly, I wish to thank the President of the Republic of Senegal for the statement just made. May I request representatives to remain seated while we greet the President.